pull one more screen up. Click here. All right, here we go. Whoop. Yeah, there we are. Hey, everybody. How's it going? Dan Shinder here on Drum Talk TV, coming to you from little old Globe, Arizona, 100 miles east of Phoenix, up in the mountains where there's only 7,234 people here, including our cat, Sage. And my guest today, I'm so excited to have Richie Martinez of Arch Echo and many other awesome projects that we'll talk about from Nashville. Richie, how are you? Thanks so much for taking time out to join me on Drum Talk TV.
Thanks for having me. Today's a good day. It's Tuesday.
It is.
You know, who doesn't like Tuesday? It's the day after Monday.
And
so
you gear up for hump day.
That's right. You got the eye burgers off your face. No longer Monday.
That's
and
right.
so we're here. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm glad.
Oh, thanks. I'm excited to talk about the music of Arch Echo. I want to give a quick shout out to my friend and brother in music and life, Rick Zaccaro, who I played bass with years and years ago throughout the years. And Rick introduced me to Arch Echo, and immediate music crush. Immediate.
That's awesome.
I mean, I stalked through everything I could find on YouTube, your website, and then I reached out through the website. You answered, and here we are. So thanks again. For those of you not familiar with Arch Echo, Rich, of course, you'll have a chance to talk about their music, but I want to kind of give my quick take for those.
I want to know your take. Okay. I need to know your take.
Okay. For the few people unfamiliar with your music, as it says on your website, it's complex but yet accessible. I describe it as adventurous. Yes, you can dance to some of it, but you might hurt yourself to some other of it, which is great because we love odd meter, right? It's all instrumental, which is really cool. They had a tuba and a banjo player for a while, but they got rid of them. No, just kidding. It's two guitarists, bass, amazing keyboards. What am I leaving out? Two guitarists, bass, amazing keyboards. There's no singer. And Richie on drums. He's got an amazing backup band called Arch Echo. And I hear traces of all kinds of things. I hear traces of fresh new stuff, and I hear traces of stuff from the 70s. And some of the stuff I hear from the 70s is like Return to Forever, particularly a bit of Chick Corea and a bit of Al Di Meola from Romantic Warrior. I hear Eric Johnson, I hear Steve Vai, I hear all kinds of stuff. And it's amazing to me how accessible it does all sound and fresh, being that it is all instrumental music. It's always hard to describe music to people. We talked about Haken earlier, you know, those guys. It does remind, there's traces of Haken stuff, type of stuff going on in there. But we all know they copied your guys' stuff. But that's another interview. Let's do this. I want to play a bit of what might be my favorite song and favorite video by you guys. It's called Immediate Results. And as a video guy, I'm going to tell you folks, this video is amazing. It really is. It's really cool. So let's check them out, and then we'll come back and get to know Richie. Here we go. right, that's enough, everybody. Just buy the record. So,
Agreed.
great,
Do
great
that.
stuff. I mean, everything from the subtleties of the fills on the rims and the staccato picking on the guitar. And I love one of the things I notice about your music. There's a lot of seamless pivoting. There's a couple tracks. I can't remember the names of. There's a couple tracks where it's like and then into a nice ballady thing, and then back to the storm. It's great. It's great. So let's start with this. Where did the Arch Echo name come from?
Oh my God. Okay. So do I give you the interview answer or the real answer?
I guess the real answer is from Talk TV.
I'm gonna give you.
You just say
I'm
how
gonna give
it
you
is.
the real answer.
Okay.
So the band is made of of 5 very interesting human beings who we're pretty goofy.
I watched Hanging with the Guys, by the way, the other day.
I mean, yeah, we're dorks. We can be dorks, and so we don't live in the same city. 3 of us do live in Nashville, and the other 2, Adam Rafowitz, lives in Minnesota,
One of
and
the guitar
Joey.
players.
That's correct. And Joey Izzo, the keyboardist, lives in upstate New York. He lives in the Adirondacks.
Okay.
And so a lot of our communication is via Zoom and Skype and FaceTime. And so whenever we were coming up with a band name, at first our band name was Earthshine. It was Earthshine, but there was already a band with that name. So we had to completely scrap that and, delete the Facebook page and start a new Facebook page. And we decided, all right, guys, we need to come up with a band name. We have songs that are going to be coming out soon. Can't have songs without a good name. Or at least a name, right?
Right.
And so we created a spreadsheet, essentially. It's just this Word document with a whole bunch of different band name ideas. And man, if I could show you guys this page, you'd be like, what were they thinking? And the least bad of all the choices was Arch Echo. And that's a very, very short
That's interesting.
answer
This
to the question.
Resonates with me personally because I have in my phone a list of band names. I have this uncontrollable hobby of just coming up with names. Ready for a Nap, Skin Condition, When Ugly People, Zipper Teeth Hygienists, Small Town Gossip Hounds, Bathing with a Toaster, my favorite, I might actually use this one, Nose Hair Bandits.
Nose Hair Bandits is a good one.
Arch Echo's better than all of those.
So that's essentially how the name came to be, which is it took a very long time. It started serious and it devolved into this just absolute mess of puns and jokes. And then eventually we're like, guys, let's get serious. And
Bring
Arch
it
Echo
back.
became a thing.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's cool. And when you all got together, were you all on the same page from the beginning as far as the music? I know that Joey Izzo is the primary composer, right?
For the first album, that is correct.
Okay.
Yeah, because some of the songs pre-existed the existence of the band, pre-existed the band. The guys all met at Berkeley, but Adam Rafowitz, Joey, and Joe knew each other the longest, and so ideas had already existed. So album 1, you're hearing ideas from those guys that had already been written. They were just really changed to be more of a prog fusion type thing. And then album 2, and then this newest EP is a complete revamp of our writing
just
process.
Came out October 2nd.
Right.
And what's the biggest difference between the two?
Wow. Okay. So the biggest difference.
Is the difference not reflected in the music, but it was more in the process, or is there a noticeable difference in the music?
The process has led to a more mature version of the music.
Okay.
So it has allowed us to be able to write things that we think are more cohesive, more accessible, and also more complex. It's very difficult to create music that is both complex and accessible. Right. And we try to do our best to blend those worlds. So the newest EP, I think, is the biggest example of our new writing approach in the sense that we're all more involved. These are all songs that start from scratch. because most of the ideas didn't exist.
Mm.
And it has led to a really fun project.
So it's more collaborative.
Absolutely, 100% more. Yeah.
Does someone like start strumming something on the guitar, or do you get together?
So
with
we
the
have
bass player and,
we have
like,
a Google
how does it work?
Drive.
Okay.
We have a Google Drive where, so there's a folder in there, and it's just groove ideas, right, or whatever we call it. And there's a folder for Adam, Joey, Joe, and myself. And then you put whatever ideas come to mind in your folder or in the writing folder. And then since we all have access to the same Google Drive, we can dig out those ideas and see if any of them kind of like spark an idea. And then we can just, diarrhea of the mouth, just put stuff on there.
That's awesome.
Which is nice, because then you have a stockpile of riffs and grooves and everything available right there. So whenever the guys are feeling like they want to get creative, they can pick out some grooves, or I can pick out some riffs or whatever. So that is a really nice streamlined way of doing modern writing when you're not all in the same place.
Right. And how seamless is it as far as when you have 5 musicians, especially not where you can readily get together in a room, all of you, and play? How seamless is the process when you have all these fragmented different ideas and putting them in together into a composition that everyone's happy with and that it resonates? Are you that much on the same page, or is there a certain amount of elasticity and flexibility between everybody to just say, yeah, just whatever you want, I'll go along with that? Or, how does that work?
So I think that the core to the answer of this question is found within each of us as individuals and as a collective, because we are page for practically everything.
Great. That's rare.
Yeah, we vote for everything as a band, and there are very few things that have to be. Well, everything has to be majority rules, and there are very important things have to be unanimous. Mm-hmm. And so, when it comes to writing, also you have to keep your ego in check as an individual, because if as a drummer or a guitarist or whatever, you're really attached to the riff you write, it can be an ego thing. Yeah. And we don't care about that. We just like to write ideas, and if they work, they work. The best ideas are the ones that spark influence in the other player, and not the ones that you're necessarily emotionally attached to, unless it's like a story that you want to have written for your daughter or whatever the case may be, in which case everyone can work together to try to birth that concept. Yeah. But in general, we're all really good at taking constructive criticism and also giving it, because taking constructive criticism is one thing, but no one ever talks about how do you give constructive criticism. Right. Everyone always tells you when you grow up, your mentors are like, make sure you take constructive criticism well, but they never teach you how to give constructive criticism. And so we yell at each other a lot. And but we're all really good at writing ideas because we like to be in the same page. We know that our best grooves, our best ideas are created when we're on the same page. And so it's become a very seamless effort. And if something doesn't work, it doesn't work. I have a few riffs or grooves that I wrote and I put in the drive that Joe and Adam Bentley came over to my house, and we started playing, and we tried to write with the grooves that I had prepared, and it was just not working. And so we scrapped them. I mean, they're in the Google Drive, but they didn't work for the EP release. And sometimes that happens. Yeah. Sometimes that happens. And also, I think it is very important. This is the most valuable thing from a drummer's perspective. You have to think like a music director or like a producer or a songwriter, because as a drummer, drummers get a bad rap because a lot of drummers are not very creative in the songwriting process, or they're just the ape in the back that's just hitting things. And so all of your parts get demoed for you and written for you. And to me, that's where my line is drawn in the sand. Like I enjoy whenever patterns are created so that I can turn them into my own, but I I'm a songwriter. I love writing or creating ideas. I find myself to be quite a creative human being. And in my lessons, I teach a lot about creativity and things like that. But in the meta narrative of everything, as a band, drummers have to have a voice, or they have to give their voice and give it wisely and productively. Because if not, you're going to be the guy in the back that's just playing patterns that are created for him, and no one listens.
Right.
So that's important.
That is important, and I think that most drummers don't have the tools or the training or the education or the experience for what you're saying. I think a lot of drummers, and I'm a drummer, so folks, before you jump all over me, understand I come from the same tribe, but I think that there's a lot of drummers that become drummers because they don't want to deal with music theory. There's a lot of drummers that are drummers who never learned music theory, and they still can have musical ideas, certainly, but there's a lot of other drummers that grew up being told that your job is to simply be the timekeeper and the backbeat, and it hasn't occurred to them to be creative and contribute in the ways that you're saying. But
when someone, to add to your point very quickly, because this is very important to me, I think, a drummer or a drum educator or a percussionist who says your duty is to be the backbeat and the timekeeper and assumes that those two phrases, those two words are hijacked to mean boots and cats, is a drummer or a percussionist or a drum educator that doesn't understand the depth of timekeeping, of backbeat, and doesn't really understand the realm of music. Because it is very, for Americans or Westerners, to assume that we can hijack the term groove or backbeat or time as to assume that those words are exclusively held to the idea of
simplicity.
Is very, very, I think, very naive, but also comes from a really prideful area, because there are a lot of Afro-Cuban rhythms that grew. A lot of African rhythms. There are a lot of Asian patterns. There are a lot of, you find music in Russia that has very, very little, common threads with Westernized music. And so
West
for
Africa.
us as absolutely. Yeah. And for us as drummers to assume, and it all goes back, I say all that to say what you're mentioning about drummers not expanding upon the reality of the importance of music theory. You don't have to know your circle of fifths as a drummer necessarily, and you don't have to know all your scales, but it's helpful, and also it teaches you to grow. The thing is, drummers get confused. They ask themselves the question, man, why am I lacking creativity? Or why is it so hard for me to write an intricate song that doesn't get boring? But on the same hand, they say things like, well, our primary duty is to just hold the backbeat and hold time. That's only a piece of the puzzle. And, you want to take the whole puzzle and put it together. You don't want to just squish these parts in together. And creating music and being you are a creative human being. You're not just a drummer, right? Because you wake up and you have responsibilities at home and you have responsibilities at work and you love music. You're a creative human being that does many things, not just drumming. And whenever you can expand upon the realm of the importance of being educated and pushing creativity, the more opportunities you give yourself.
Yes.
I did a session last week with an artist here in Nashville. His name's Kyle Cook, an amazing guitarist, and it was Americana. A lot of people who find out about me, they think I'm a metal drummer, but I grew up listening to, if I gave you my musical influences, you'd be like, wow, really? I would never expect that listening to Arch Echo. But it's important because you can be the guy that goes, and you can be the guy that's, all those things.
Yeah, and we will get to your musical influences. I love this topic, though, and I want to cap it off by saying, is this something else you all can jump on me about? I have a feeling Richie will back me up on this one, though. And folks, if you follow the interviews, you'll know I've said this before, and I've said it recently. A term I hate, and I get it, and I understand where it's applicable the most, But a term I think is somewhat BS in its singular meaning is playing for the song. Playing for the song, yeah, that could be Hal Blaine, Jim Keltner, Paul Rudd of AC/DC, doing exactly that. But like Brian Tichy said, Neil Peart playing La Villa Strangiato, he was playing for that song. My example is Carl Palmer in Tarkus or Carny of Lion. He's playing for that song. Playing for the song doesn't mean the drummer's invisible or just groove. Playing for the song means it fits that song regardless of what the intricacies are or the genre of music or any of that. So I don't like how that term is often used. So he's not playing for the song. Well, I don't know. The song made it on a record. It's on heavy radio rotation and it went gold. How can you say that just because it's not like you're saying,
Yeah.
So that's a term that I think is really just not applicable anymore,
I think the reason I've mentioned this a few times to my students and to other drumming friends, but the reason why I believe if you're thinking of as a musical director, an MD or a producer, I think the reason why we tell drummers that they need to play for the song or they need to be in the pocket is because a lot of drummers don't think like MDs or producers, and so they shoot themselves in the foot because you give a drummer liberty, and the majority of the time, what does he do?
There's a
He likes to play the paradiddles that he was just practicing. But when you give a musical drummer liberty, he doesn't play for the song. He creates the song.
Yeah.
He is part of the ingredient.
Exactly.
Right? He is part of the ingredients that create the song. Yeah. Otherwise, you just become a hired gun that can get, fired the next day. All the guys who have their gigs, who have had their gigs for a long time, don't just play the song they got hired for. The reason that they're there is that they provide something, and in their freedom and in their liberties demonstrate their advanced nature as a musician to be able to offer the song something that no one else could possibly do.
Right, bring their voice to it musically, exactly.
You have to be able to be a malleable, authentic musician. I'm not going to get hired for an Americana gig and be like, that would make no sense.
Right. I'd love to hear it, though.
That'd be really, I'm going to do that one day just for fun. And I'll never get hired again, but it might. But I agree with what you're saying. I think that's a great point.
Yeah, it's an interesting topic. And thanks, everyone, for watching. Please, if you know someone who's into progressive rock and just beautiful music, please share this interview so they can get Richie's insight as well and see some clips. And let us know if you have questions. Let's go to the fact that you grew up in a musically rich home environment. Talk about that, and then where your influences do come, whether they're drummers or bands or other musicians or whomever.
So, man, music has a very interesting place in my life in general. I have tons of influences, and starting, my dad played drums and percussion a lot as a kid, and he used to play for his church, and my mom would sing. So I grew up, and they just so happened to work for a label as well in Houston, Texas. And so I grew up around music. I played tons of it, and I started playing drums around the age of 2 or 3. At least that's what my dad says. There are pictures of me on a Mickey Mouse drum set, but I don't know if that counts. Whatever. Doesn't matter. But music has always been a part of my life. I remember constantly hitting things and practicing. Had my own drum set, at least consistently, until I was later in my teen years. Oh. But I did have the opportunity to practice with friends' drum sets and things like that, right? I never took lessons, growing up, I didn't take lessons. I took lessons for like a 6-month period when I was 12. But I had to learn a lot of the stuff on my own. And so that helped me to develop my ear in a sense and understand patterns that I'm hearing and things like that, which helped me be a little analytical. And I can appreciate that. And I loved drummers and still do, like Dave Weckl, Vinny Colaiuta, Steve Gadd, Dennis Chambers, my goodness. Who else did I listen to growing up? I listened to a lot of Tony Royster, Thomas Pridgeon, guys like that. Really, really changed the way that I looked at drums. I even got into like Papa Joe Jones back in the day. I don't swing. I used to be in jazz band and whatever, but I'm not a swing or jazz drummer by any means. But I enjoyed watching Papa Joe Jones and Buddy Rich and those
that
guys.
one
And
solo of Papa Joe Jones from, I think it's 1957, where he's playing and then he plays with his fingers and then with his hands, karate chop. It's one of my top 3 favorite drum solos ever. It's just amazing.
He's very charismatic, and I enjoy that. I'll talk about that more because that's important to me as well. But bands, I listen to. I grew up on bands like Blink-182. I was an angsty teenager. But the one band, if someone asked me, who's your favorite band? And actually, people that listen to Arch Echo, like they'll be at a show and we'll get to meet people and they'll be like, so, was your favorite band Rush as a kid? And I didn't get into prog or metal until I was like 20. My wife knows this very well because we've been together for a long time. But the one band that changed the way that I look at music and drumming and everything, right, is the Mars Volta. And for me, the Mars Volta, I spent years studying their music. If there's one gig where like someone called and say, hey, we need you to be ready tomorrow, my bags would already be packed. I know the songs. Yeah. I know the songs. And because as a kid, I binged it.
On his contributions to that band is just amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. When the Bedlam and Goliath came out, that record, oh my gosh, I played it nonstop. And growing up, I mentioned briefly that I didn't have a drum set all the time. So being on a pad was the only thing I had for a long time. And that became, and still is, you can see a pad here. Yeah. There are pads over there everywhere. Drum pads for me became my drum set. It taught me how to play drums without having to have a kit. And so eventually I got into school. And so eventually I marched and I played concert percussion and I did jazz band. I studied music theory and, to go to university, and I got accepted to a music I've been dreaming about since I was 12. I got accepted and I got like a really good scholarship. And then at the end of the day, I was like, well, even with a really good scholarship, I'm going to be in a lot of debt. So I was just like, I'm going to play gigs. So I started playing gigs with friends and things like that. And eventually that grew and became a thing. And it's been a very interesting road. I've played a lot. And I think that the most valuable thing you can do for yourself is gain experience. University is fantastic, but I wanted to go to school for performance. And it's like, why am I going to wait 4 years for someone to be like, okay, now you're ready to go and start, as opposed to just performing. And so it was really nice to kind of get that leap, and jump and just start playing gigs. And it helped me a lot.
That's cool. I want to throw in a clip of you playing Stella Live with the guys in Dallas. And after this clip, I'm going to ask you more about your influences, okay?
For sure.
Hey, check this out, folks. This is a neat view, too. the video kind of geeked, so I'll stop. But that was cool. That was great. So given, and that was a side of stage, video, folks, where it's not wired to the board or anything like that. You're just hearing whatever the camera could catch, but certainly can catch exactly what Richie's doing. So if you folks think of Arch Echo and the kind of music that we've been showing and talking about, let's see what's behind the curtain of some influences that might surprise people. Richie, what would they be? Is it like the Archies and the Monkees? Or...
Yeah. Man, let's see. So, for me, bands. You know what? I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna pull up my phone.
Okay.
This is great because on my Spotify, if I were to just walk through some bands that to me are really influential and are enjoyable.
Mm-hmm.
For the band, everybody in the band, we have a common thread, but we also have very different influences. So, okay, here's one that I grew up listening to quite a bit. Audio Slave.
Oh.
I love Audio Slave. Audio Slave is great. Later on in life, I got into bands like Meshuggah.
Oh.
Is great. I really like, I already mentioned the Mars Volta, but if I were to give you, I'm a really big fan of Foster the People.
Oh, wow, okay.
Completely opposite side of the spectrum.
Yeah.
And, Incubus was big for me.
Oh, yeah. It's funny, my daughter introduced me to both Incubus and the Mars Volta back in 2008.
Those bands are great.
Yeah.
And
Cool.
so for me, I listen to I could go forever and ever. I mean, I've listened to so much, so many different styles of music for the band. And so that influences me. And then that is injected into how I play and how I write and how, I approach being a drummer. And, because you want to know something crazy? This is going to be eternity now because it's on video.
That's
but
right.
People will come up to me and they'll ask questions like, so Neil Peart must be your favorite drummer, right? And you have to be careful because if you say no, people are like, well, you must be a psychopath. And it's not because I never studied Rush. I didn't know about Rush. I didn't know about Neil until recently. Like my bandmates know like every Rush song. And I feel like I missed out on that as a kid because I don't know, the realm that I was in, I was listening to a lot of Dave Weckl and Vinical Yuta. And so it's crazy because people are like, oh, I can hear a lot of Neil in his playing. And it's funny that people say that because I
never listened to him back then. Yeah.
I've listened to one Rush song all the way, maybe two, all the way through. And it's really interesting because in the prog world, drummers are very like-minded. I say that to say, you could have never ever in your life heard about Vinny Colaiuta. He may not even be on your favorite drummers list and still have a very a common thread, a link, because drummers, rhythmically speaking, can be so similar without ever having to hear about them or know of their discography or anything. And that's cool, but it also sucks because I didn't grow up with Neil. So it's a bummer for me.
It's never
but
too
it's
late.
Really I know. It's a bummer for me, but it's also really cool whenever people can they think they can pick that out because that means that as a musician, the patterns that we create or the patterns that I'm playing for these songs at least kind of remind them of when they first heard of this band or that band. And it's a really interesting it's a really interesting route that is taken whenever you have certain influences because eventually they tie in with others.
Right. And, like I mentioned in the beginning, when I give you my take on the different layers of, recollections I heard, how much is any of that on? Like when I mentioned...
A lot of it is on because of the other guys.
Okay.
I'm the only guy that doesn't. I'm the only guy that hasn't listened to Joe. Joe makes fun of me because he's like, "You haven't listened to Genesis or Yes?" Like, I haven't. I'm sorry, dude.
Oh, wow.
But
they're like two of my favorite bands and biggest musical influences.
Yeah, Joe knows their stuff
again,
really well.
I'm probably 40 years older than you are. How old are you?
I'm 27.
27. Okay, so I'm 30 years older than you.
Yeah, but Joe knows their stuff, and so, and Joe's like, dude, you got to check out. Yeah, so he knows his stuff. He's actually played some. He's the one that has played Rush for me and Genesis and Yes in the car when we're like driving together and whatnot. But it's like it's funny because you are right, because the other guys in the band know that stuff. Like Adam Bentley, Adam Bentley and Joey know Dream Theater's discography extremely well.
Oh, wow.
And I think I've listened to maybe 4 minutes of a Dream Theater song. And but they know it.
So you had to turn it off.
No,
I'm kidding.
They're insanely good. I actually really enjoy, this is going to create a debate, but I really like Mike Mangini's drumming in general. I got into Mike before the Dream Theater thing. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But I really like his playing. So I like to hear what he does with Dream Theater.
Yeah, he's great. Yeah.
He's a fantastic drummer, musician. But it's funny because like those two guys, and Joe and I really like a band called Death Cab for Cutie.
Oh, and for them, yeah.
You have all kinds of interesting links in the web.
Yeah. That's what makes a band a band. And in 20 years or something, and I'll look at comments in a moment, folks. In 20 years or something, hopefully younger musicians will be doing the same thing with you that I'm always telling musicians who listen to Nico McBrain with Iron Maiden, Bill Ward of Black Sabbath, Alan White of Yes, Phil with Genesis. You listen to any musical hero you have, and chances are the music they grew up on is not what they're playing. Collins, how did he end up in Genesis playing Supper's Ready and Trick of the Tail, all that stuff, telling about all this crazy music when his love was true R&B. Today's R&B isn't R&B. There is no rhythm and there is no blues for the most part.
Right.
But true R&B from the 60s, 70s, and you look at Alan White before he was in Yes, a serious progressive rock band, and the first album he recorded with them was a double album with one song on each side, and the whole thing is one story, coming from playing with John Lennon and Yoko Ono and Joe Cocker. So, and he didn't, a lot of these older guys and girls didn't have rock models to emulate. They grew up on jazz and soul, and then they invented all this other stuff we're talking about. So in 10, 20 years, people will look at what you are listening to, and as you've depicted, it's different from what you're known for, because you take all those ingredients, like you say, you make a new stew with it that's your own.
Yeah. It's really weird because I'm not a metal drummer. And I had to learn how to play double bass for Arch Echo.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah. But before recording the first album, I don't think I owned a double pedal.
Wow.
And so I had best time. It took like 2 to like get to the point where before the studio session I was comfortable with the parts, because I'm not a metal drummer. And I actually saw a comment on one of my YouTube videos recently where someone said, "Man, I can tell you've played a lot of drumming because of this one fill you played."
A lot of metal.
A lot of metal. They said, yeah. I can tell you've played a lot of metal drumming because of this one fill you played. And I was like, man, I'm not a metal drummer. I grew up playing like the exact opposite. Actually, I remember as a teen, I was like, man, I'm going to play single pedal only because Thomas Pridgeon plays single pedal only.
That's how I was. I grew up on John Bonham, even Carl Palmer before he was in Asia. One pedal, da-da-da-da, Ian Pace, all these great, rich.
Yeah.
But it was much, much later where I added a pedal. And I am not, and anyone that watches Dan's almost daily vlog knows, I am not a double pedal player, but I use it for some fills, just for an extra thing. Yeah. But I can't even evenly go da 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 da. I can't do it. I
had to force myself. I had to force myself to learn it and then like try to be good at it. It's actually really fun because because I'm not a metal drummer, being in a progressive metal band is more fun because now I get to be for Arch Echo at least, I'm going to give Arch Echo's iTunes genre of progressive metal. I want to give a different meaning to it because it's fun that way.
Yeah, that's
cool. Makes it really interesting.
I want to read a couple comments and then we'll get back to double pedal. I got a question for you on that I've actually thought of before we did the interview, but now knowing that you weren't a double pedal drummer makes it all that more valuable, your answer. Michael Vosbein says continued success. Hey Michael, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Also said there were a lot of frames being dropped. I unfortunately don't control the internet, so I don't always have control over that. And sometimes it's on your folks' end, sometimes it's on my end. It's just impossible to know. So sorry about that. Jim Ho says he's seen you drum, Richie. Badass, Rudy chops. Cool. He also says, a kid, but I love your rhythmic dexterity and syncopation. Jim Ho is an old. Oh, I didn't mean old. Jim Ho is a seasoned drum corps veteran.
Oh, let's yes. See, that's why I have my pad, because I was gonna do things like.
Oh, cool. There you go.
I'm just kidding. I always have my pad there.
That's cool. So I was gonna ask you, and now, thanks, Steve. Talking to my son, he sent me a little note. Our associate producer, Steven Shinder, is on the ball. Now, knowing that you weren't a double pedal player, again, your answer to this is going to be all that much more valuable. Because I was going to ask you, how did you develop your double pedal chops? Because they are extremely pristine. And now that we all know that you have not been a double pedal player for that long, and how long has it been? And what was the learning curve? In how much time? What was the strategy to develop your skills?
Oh my gosh. So this is why I love talking about a double pedal, because I know that in my eyes, I'm complete trash. And I know how long it's taken me to try to not be complete trash. And so I think I've been playing double pedal for, the winter of 23 years. Yeah. So I'm fairly new to it. And I learned it for the Arteco stuff. So to learn double pedal, I love technique. Like, the two biggest things that I love to teach are technique and creativity. And because I think technique is extremely important. That could be like a whole 3-day talk about that. But I took the same approach that I take with my hands to my feet, in the sense that I wanted to understand the reasoning, and also how to be purposeful with movement of your feet, things like that. So I started from scratch by playing heel down, because I don't play heel down live, because it wouldn't make sense, because you can't get as much power. But playing heel down, this is the problem with a lot of drums. I'm going to tell you the problem with a lot of drummers. Okay. Is that they won't practice multiple techniques simply because, I wouldn't use that. That's dumb. Or I didn't learn it that way. And there's always this like battle between who's right and who's wrong. Right. There is such thing as objective efficiency, and there's such thing as being stubborn. And so, I don't play heel down because I have no need for it, but it taught me how to. I remember I wanted to know the purpose and the intent behind foot technique. So playing heel down forced me to learn how to utilize different muscle groups in my feet. Wow. It also taught me how to have movement with my ankle and dexterity with my ankle. Control over the pedal in a different manner, and then moving to heel up on my left foot, and then combining both allowed me to build those muscle groups more. And I did very simple patterns like here. I'll show you. You probably won't be able to hear it, but I'll just click the sticks. Okay. So, I marched, and I take a lot of the patterns that we art and are still part of my daily routines. And there are very simple subdivision check patterns that are done that I do for my kicks. So this is a very common check pattern. So it's essentially 16th notes. Mm-hmm. And instead of playing every 16th note, what you're doing is playing groups of threes, and you're just moving it around on the partials. Okay. So you start on the first partial, right? Because you always start on 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and then so on and so forth. So 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1, and then 1 2 E 3 E 4 E 1. And I did that with my feet, but I don't do, because I said I marched, I don't do all right foot led stuff, because there's such thing as natural sticking, and In those patterns, when you play 1 E N, 2 E N, you have right, left, right. If you play E and you do left, right, left, left, right, left, left, right, left, left, right, left. And that taught me to have coordination, because the biggest thing that is a struggle for double bass players that are learning how to play is coordination and balance, because it's awkward. Like, whoa, how do I keep my body still, and how do I have coordination? And then the singles end up becoming as opposed to right.
Yeah.
And so coordination is what I focused on first. And with this, the key to speed, this includes the hands as well. The key to speed is control. Drummers want to play fast, but they never focus on controlled technique and efficiency and articulation and all of that stuff. And the key to speed is control. You can't be fast until you have that dexterity built, until you have coordination. And so coordination is something that I really, really focused on. And as a matter of fact, that helped me skip all the years that I didn't play double bass drum, because I did what I did with my hands, but with my feet. Now my feet are not super fast. They're a lot better than they were. And I can actually sit and play a double bass drum pattern now, as opposed to in the past. But that was the process for me. And it had to happen quickly, because I had like 3 months maybe to learn, 3 to 4 months to learn double bass before recording the album.
Wow.
Yeah, because the songs were completed in December and we recorded the album like in February and released it in May.
And they were specifically written for double bass. Those parts were written for double bass.
Like there's a song that we have called Earthshine.
Right.
And the pattern is and I had to play out with my feet, and I'm like, dude, I've never touched a double bass pattern. You want me to play that? It's messed up. And so unfortunately that part pre-existed. And I had to figure it out.
I gotta tell you, when I was binging the first time on all your music with Archeco, and I saw Earthshine, I honestly thought, they covered Rush, because there's a Rush song called Earthshine.
That's where it came from.
Oh, I didn't know that. But it's not a cover, folks, right?
Joe, no, it's not a cover, but Joey and Joe are... Joe's favorite bass player is... Joey has... he grew up playing drums to Neil's parts, and he's a keyboardist, and those guys know when I say every single Rush song. Like they could play that gig. Not that they could, you know what I'm saying. They're not Geddy Lee in there. Yeah. But,
Yeah.
So that's why. Because actually, Measure of a Life on our new EP is a lyric from... Yeah. So...
Awesome. And...
those guys like Rush.
I want to make sure we squeeze in to really show everybody more about you and what you play. Talk a little bit about working with Tony McAlpine.
Oh, yeah, that was cool. Okay, so I had I think a week to learn his songs, because so I met Tony through a mutual friend who does work with Tony, tour managing and everything here in Nashville. And they asked if I was available to play a gig. Mind you, I didn't grow up on Prague, so I didn't know who Tony was. Okay? Tony knows this, so if he wants to punch me in the face, it's okay. And so...
I don't think anyone is... Let's just get this out of the way, folks, real quick. I don't think anyone's obligated to know everyone. I'm the Drum Talk TV guy, and I still get drummers and bands like you referred to me that I never heard of before, and there's nothing wrong with that, no matter how popular they are. So that's totally okay.
Yeah, and so it made for a really interesting experience, because I didn't know his songs, and it just so happens that his songs are hard. Virgil Donati is one of my favorite drummers, and I had to learn Virgil's parts. I was like, dude, how am I going to do? I only had, I think, 7-day to 12-day period to learn 12 songs, and 12 Tony songs is 40 regular songs.
Yeah.
And we did one rehearsal before the first gig we did, which was it was a cruise ship gig. It was
Cruise to the Edge?
No, it wasn't Cruise to the Edge, but it's I think it's made by the same
people.
Monster
something.
Monsters of Rock.
Yeah.
Monsters of or Cruise or Monsters something. That one.
Yeah. Cruising with Monsters.
Yeah, because like Queensryche was on there and a whole bunch of other, and and so I had to learn his parts, and we played our first show together on that cruise, and that was really fun. And then after that, Tony was all like, "Well, would Arch Echo like to join me for a tour?" And we did a tour together, I think in 2018, 2019, and I did double duty. So I played for Tony as a headliner, and I also opened with Arch Echo.
Wow.
So I was playing 2-hour sets every night. We played 22 days in a row without an off day. So I was playing 44 hours of music over the course of that, if you calculate it, right?
Yeah.
And so playing with Tony was super cool. And I got to, play my version of the songs. And I did that, I learned the songs, how I played what I would do.
Your
and it was really fun.
of one of your favorite drummers. How exciting is that?
That was so crazy.
Yeah.
That was really cool to do because I was dorking out. It's like, Virgil's one of my... Marco has recorded with him. Yurgo Borla. Yurgo was on the gig before I was. I'm like, dude, I've got those shoes to fill. Why would you do this to me?
Those are three amazing drummers. Yurgo Borla, Marco
They threw me to the lion's den.
And, Virgil Donati. It's like... And this guy, Richie Martinez.
They're like, why would they wanted to kill me?
But now they don't want to follow you.
No. So it was a great, and it went great. Like Tony and I got along really well. The shows were amazing. We jammed and it flowed, right? So I'm so glad that I got that experience and that Tony and I got to it was a really enjoyable time. So, and I learned a lot. And to think that I had to play those guys' parts was even more fun for me because I love their playing. Yurgo Borla is amazing.
Yeah,
I've listened to plenty of his stuff, and obviously Marco Miniman's crazy. Also, I don't play double bass. So it was torturous for me to learn Marco's parts
in 3 months or quicker. Yeah, that's just crazy. There's so much more that I want to talk about, but we're running out of time because I want to make sure this fits on Instagram. So it's got to be under an hour. We'll do this another time, and we'll start with Charisma. We'll go back. We'll show that solo of Papa Joe Jones that I talked to, and we'll get into that whole thing. So my last even more, when you're not recording, writing, producing, composing, playing, jamming, working on your chops, when you're doing nothing related to music, what is the Richie Martinez fun fact? What do you like to do?
Oh no, you're in for a really strange answer.
That's okay.
Well, okay, so I'm a dad. So I got a little girl running around.
Little girl, how old is she?
She's 2.5, and she's 2.5, and I have another one on the way, like in 2 weeks.
Whoa, wow, that's awesome! Congratulations.
Yeah.
As I told you, you met my wife before we started. As I told you, as a father of a blended family of 11.
11, that's
kids,
amazing.
11 grown kids. 20. Steve will be 26 in a week, so 26 to 45 years old, and 19 grandkids. I can tell you are in for a real treat, and I can tell you'll be a great dad. Yeah,
I do. It's fun, so I do that. But like completely unrelated things. Here you go. I'm gonna give you bullet points. Okay, so I do MMA.
Okay,
a good amount of MMA.
Wow.
Boxing and Muay Thai and.
Oh wow.
To compete, that would be amazing.
You should get with Ricky Rocket. You know who Ricky Rocket is?
No, I don't.
Poison. He's the drummer of the 80s band Poison.
Oh,
he's
yeah.
Really into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Oh, I'm trash at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
But he's trash at MMA, so there you go. It's even
I need to learn. My ground game is pretty weak. So I do MMA quite a bit.
Wow.
I love coffee.
Oh,
too much. But like I'm really into coffee, so like I'll walk an insane amount on tour to go to that boutique coffee shop.
I was just going to ask, where in the world have you had the most amazing cup?
I get made fun of this for this because I like to give really obscure answers.
It's like Vaughn's Market around the corner or something.
No, there was a place in Osaka in Japan.
Oh, and that's where
the
big coffee craze started. A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah. I want to go to Australia because Australia is known for their coffee. They have like AeroPress champions and all that, and so I want to do that. But just to give one answer, Osaka in Japan was an amazing experience for coffee. Nice. It was fantastic. So I like coffee. I like MMA. I trade stocks. I day trade.
Oh wow, good for you.
Never expect that maybe. And I mean, oh man, it's endless. I like watches. I'm super into watches.
Oh really?
Like
Why? Wait, why do they call it a watch? When you don't watch it, you look at it. Why is it called right?
because you yeah, because you want others to watch how awesome you look whenever
Oh,
you're
I
wearing
like
it.
that. Okay.
And I mean, it's endless. I play tons of soccer. I love shooting guns. I'm from Texas. I like meat and potatoes
Great.
and knives. I think I don't
awesome.
have my knife collection here, but all kinds of things. I'm weird,
That's
man.
great. No, you're not. This is all great stuff.
I like a whole bunch of things.
I definitely want to do this again. There's so much to talk about. Folks, thank you so much for joining me. Yeah, Jim Ho, 11 kids. Now, I don't have hair because my brain grew with so much intelligence and pushed out the follicles. No,
That
actually,
makes
it's not
sense.
from the kids. It's from... Well, I won't say that. Okay. It's all good. It's all good. All right. So we're going to go so we can fit this on Instagram. Richie, hang on the line with me, folks. Thank you so much. Share this with anybody who you think might be inspired by this wonderful insight by Richie Martinez from Arch Echo. Check them out. I promise you will not be